Hello and welcome to today's show, which is all about funny stories. See how easily you can write humorously and write a funny story. Firstly, I should mention the show is brought to you thanks to the Your Family Story systems, which helps you interview a loved one and record their life story. I'll have some sections to that which will be free, so stick with me to the end of the show and I'll give you all the details to get your hands on those. But firstly, a big g'day if you are new to Forever Young Autobiographies. It's where we learn to write life stories for family and friends so that unique memories can live on. And it would make me so happy if you could follow, subscribe and like the show. So today's show is actually part of the Ask Nicola series. As a life story coach, I get lots of questions, whether that's to do with planning to write, writing, editing or publishing life stories, and that could be autobiographies, memoirs, biographies or other life story projects. And the advantage of this series is that I answer the question publicly so we can all learn as life story writers, as new writers. And today's question I have here, which is, I want my life story book to be funny. I need some writing techniques. Can you help? Well, I sure can, but I'd like to say a big congratulations for starting a life story project. That is fantastic news and well done. Going to try it, make it funny. So everyone, bring your cheeky side with me. We're going to jump in and find out a bit more of how to write a funny story. So I've divided this show up into 3 parts. The first part is how to get ready to write humorously. So this is before you're writing, in your planning stage. The first thing you need to get straight here, as always, is to remember who are you writing for, because you're going to tailor your stories, you're going to tailor your jokes to them, and you've got to make sure that they're actually appropriate. So that's point number 1. Second, cast out those doubts that that you might not think that you can be funny, because we all have the potential to be funny, to write funny stories. You just might need a few pointers and a few tricks to get the ball rolling. So we all can do this, okay guys? Take heart, you can have a go at writing in a funny way. Now, another thing that you need to get straight before you start writing is to think that you are going to write funny stories in a conversational style, and you're going to sprinkle the funny elements through your stories. You're not going to stuff them full of lots of jokes. So you're going to do it with funny words, you might do it with one-liners, and this can be applied to your settings, to your characters and to your plot. So think conversational and think sprinkling. We don't want to overdo it. A good way to get a feel for how to be funny is to read other books, funny authors, and watch those funny movies. And you can see how the experts do it. That's going to really get you in a funny mood, ready to write. So this is the second part of the show. This is the funny part, the writing part, and I've got some techniques here to share with you. The first funny writing technique is all about the ordinary. Who knew that observations and details about day-to-day universal experiences can be funny? And you can show, not tell your reader how they're absurd and how they're funny. Now this technique was really popular, really well done in the sitcom Seinfeld. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. That is the classic show that shows this technique, how absolutely ordinary situations can be super, super funny. So that would be one technique for you to try to do, make your writing more funny. A second technique is the element of surprise. Now, I'm sure you've all watched movies where there's a twist at the end and it's super funny, so you can do this for your writing as well. A third technique is to reference the impossible. And so, again, we're looking for things that are absurd, we're looking for a gross exaggeration. Now, you probably have heard all of these before, these ideas, but this one, maybe an overworked example, could be you describing a character and you could say, oh, she is such a salesperson, she could sell ice to the Eskimos. That was an example of being, impossible, exaggerating, but it's super funny. So there's some examples of using the impossible to make a funny story. Another idea is that you can take these examples or these techniques and apply them to yourself in a self-deprecating way. That's really funny when you have a go at yourself in a light-hearted fashion. That can be super funny. And you can also apply that technique to dark emotions that you might be experiencing or painful or difficult situations. Now, granted, that might come with a warning for some people, but others can do it really well, sensitively, but also funny at the same time. The final idea I have for you for funny writing is to use some of those traditional writing techniques that we know about and then give them a little twist. So we've got cliches. You can rework a cliche and make that funny, or you can make a colourful metaphor, or you can do some crazy similes. There's lots of ways you can be funny when you think about techniques that we already have in our bag of tricks, but we're just putting a spin on them. So there's some funny writing techniques for you. We're going to now shift to the third part of the show, which is editing. You can still be funny when you're editing, believe it or not. There's some golden rules here though when you're editing. Firstly, to do with exclamation marks. You know, some people will write a joke and they'll put like 10 exclamation marks at the end. So we don't really want to do that. We want to use exclamation marks sparingly. And this comes back to the fact that your reader should know something's funny because you've set it up well. You don't need to really jam it down their throat by saying, look, it's funny, I've got all these exclamation marks, you know, laugh with me. No, you just need to write a good setup and a good punchline and they will naturally laugh. We don't need to add this extra emphasis. The same goes for when you're writing dialogue. You don't need to say, oh, she joked, he chuckled, they laughed. Again, it should be implied through your writing, so keep that to a minimum. Also, when we're editing, we can make things super funny when we keep our jokes short and pared back to their funny essence. This is great because your reader's going to stay with you as you're going through the joke. They're not going to get bored and tune out. So, essential to edit your jokes so they're nice and tight. That would be like a clear setup and then a really sharp punchline. So that's what you want to keep in mind. Also, read your jokes aloud, preferably to someone else, and that will give you a good feel for whether it's working or it needs to be polished and tightened a little bit more. So that brings me to the end, guys. That's pretty much Ask Nicola how to be funny and write humorous stories in 3 simple steps. And I've got everything to do with this article, to do with this show is in an article on my website. If you go to foreveryoungautobiographie.com/funny story, you will find more information and links to other articles that can help you. So I'll leave the link for that in the show notes. So please check it out and go take a look, because this is just a taster. But my hope from the show and from the article is that you will write a funny story with humour, and that's going to engage your readers. So please head over to the website and check out the article. And while you're here with me now, or when you're over at the article, leave me a comment. Have you got a funny story to share with us? Please give me a laugh. I'd love to hear it. So pop it in the comments. And even if you want to send me an email about funny stories or anything to do with live story writing, you can always go to foreveryoungautobiographie.com/contact. Now, at the top of the show, I mentioned the Your Family Story system, which helps you come up with a life story for your loved one. You can get some free sections to that just to see if it's what you're after, you're interested in maybe exploring the whole system. To get the free sections, you go to foreveryoungautobiographie.com/free. Now, I will be back again next week with another show. So I'd be super happy if you could follow, subscribe and like the show, because I will let you know when it comes out. And until then, everybody, happy writing and stay funny.